Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we will be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 13, covering the entire chapter today, verses 1 through 23, but we'll be focusing on the combined verses of 8 and 9. Before we begin, I ask for your blessings, that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all the devotees. Let us all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaitamam devim sarvasvatim vasyam tato janamuraya nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishya Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All right, so we're starting and completing a new chapter today, chapter 13 of the 6th canto, entitled King Indra Afflicted by Sinful Reaction. God bless King Indra. He really livens up the Bhagavatam. I appreciate him very much, although Bhagavatam is always enlivening. But in the interest of time, because we're covering the entire chapter and we have a pretty substantial purport, we will not read all 23 verses aloud. Instead, we'll read verses 1 through 11 aloud, and then I'll summarize the rest of the chapter, and then we'll go on to the focus verse of 8 and 9. So, who would like to start with verse 1 through 11?
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O King Pariksit, who are so charitably disposed, when Vritrasura was killed, all the presiding deities and everyone else in the 3 planetary systems was immediately pleased and free from trouble. Everyone, that is, except Indra.
Thereafter, the demigods, the great saintly persons, the inhabitants of Pitriloka and Bhuttaloka, the demons, the followers of the demigods, and also Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the demigods subordinate to Indra, all returned to their respective homes. While departing, however, no one spoke to Indra.
Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O great sage, what was the reason for Indra's unhappiness? I wish to hear about this. When he killed Vritrasura, all the demigods were extremely happy. Why then was Indra himself unhappy?
Sri Sukadev Goswami answered, when all the great sages and demigods were disturbed by the extraordinary power of Vritrasura, they had assembled to ask Indra to kill him. Indra, however, being afraid of killing a Brahmin, declined their request.
King Indra replied, when I killed Vishwarupa, I received extensive sinful reactions, but I was favored by the women, land, trees, and water, and therefore I was able to divide the sin among them. But now, if I kill Vritrasura, another Brahmana, how shall I free myself from the sinful reactions?
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, hearing this, the great sages replied to King Indra, O King of Heaven, all good fortune unto you. Do not fear. We shall perform an Ashwamedha sacrifice to release you from any sin you may occur by killing the Brahmana. The Rishis continued, O King Indra, by performing an Ashwamedha sacrifice and thereby pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Super Soul Lord Narayana, the Supreme Personality, the Supreme Controller, one can be relieved even of the sinful reactions for killing the entire world, not to speak of killing a demon like Vritrasura.
One who has killed a Brahmin, one who has killed a cow, or one who has killed his father, mother, or spiritual master can immediately be freed from all sinful reactions simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Narayan. Other sinful persons, such as dog-eaters and chandalas, who are less than Shudras, can also be freed in this way. But you are a devotee, and we shall help you by performing the great horse sacrifice. If you please Lord Narayan in that way, why should you be afraid? You will be freed even if you kill the entire universe, including the Brahmins, not to speak of killing a disturbing demon like Vritrasura.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, encouraged by the words of the sages, Indra killed Vritrasura, and when he was killed, the sinful reaction for killing a Brahmana certainly took shelter of Indra.
Following the advice of the demigods, Indra killed Vritrasura, and he suffered because of this sinful killing. Although the other demigods were happy, he could not derive happiness from the killing of Vritrasura. Indra's other good qualities, such as tolerance and opulence, could not help him in his grief.
Thank you. I'll summarize the rest of the chapter. Indra, after killing Vritrasura, was chased by personified sin, who appeared terrifying Chandala woman. Fleeing her eventually, he hides inside the stem of a lotus in Manasarovar lake, where he remains for 1,000 years. Indra's sins were gradually diminished through the mercy of Lord Rudra and the protection of the goddess of fortune. By worshipping Lord Vishnu with great devotion, Indra was freed from his sinful reactions. The Brahmins then performed the horse sacrifice, the Ashwamedha Yajna, to fully purify Lord Indra and reinstate him as king of heaven. Let us go to our focus verse, the combined verse of 8 and 9. Here we are. Brahmaha pitraha gogyo matrahacharyaha gavan Svada pulkaksakovapi Shudhyaranyasya kirtanat Tamashvametena mahamakena Shradhan vitosma bhiranushtitena Advapi sa brahmacharacharam tvam Nalipyase kim kalanigrahena Would anyone like to chant one or both of the shlokas? Brahmaha Pitarha Gogyo Matarha Charyaha Gavan Svada Pulakaksa Sovapi Shutyaranyasya Kirtanat Tamashvamaditena Mahamakena Shradhan Vitosma Piranushitena Advapi Sa Brahmacharacharam Tvam Nalepyase Kim Kalani Grahena Ashvamedhe Mahamakena Shradhan Vitosma Piranushitena Advapi Sa Brahmacharacharam Tvam Nalepyase Kim Kalani Grahena Brahmaha Haptitarha Gogyo Matarha Charyaha Gavan Svada Pulakaksa Kovapi Shutyaranyasya Kirtanat Tamashvamadena Mahamakena Shradhan Vitosma Birnushtitena Advapi Sa Brahmacharacharam Tvam Nalepyase Kim Kalani Grahena. Okay, we'll move on to synonyms. There's a lot because this is 2 verses together. We'll do these together. Brahmaha, a person who has killed a Brahmin. Pitarha, a person who has killed his father. Gognya, a person who has killed a cow. Matarha, a person who has killed his mother. Acharyaha, a person who has killed his spiritual master. Agavan, such a sinful person. Shvahada, a dog eater. Puksaka, a chandala, what is less than a shudra. Va, or, api, even, shutyeran, may be purified, yasya, of whom, Lord Narayan, kirtanat, from chanting the holy name, tam, him, ashvamedhena, by the ashvamedha sacrifice, mahamakena, the topmost of all sacrifices, shraddha anvita, endowed with faith, admasbihi, by us, anushtitena, conducted or managed, hatva, killing, api, even, sabrahmacharacharam, all the living entities, including the Brahmins, tvam, you, na, not, lipyase, are contaminated, kim, what then, kala nigrahena, by killing one disturbing demon. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who has killed a Brahmin, one who has killed a cow, or one who has killed his father, mother, or spiritual master can be immediately freed from all sinful reactions simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Narayan. Other sinful persons, such as dog eaters and chandalas, who are less than shudras, can also be freed in this way. But you are a devotee, and we shall help you by performing the great horse sacrifice. If you please Lord Narayan in that way, why should you be afraid? You will be freed even if you kill the entire universe, including the Brahmins, not to speak of killing a disturbing demon like Vritrasura. Purport. It is said in the Brihad Vishnu Purana, Namno hi yavati shakti papa nirharane hare tavat kartum na shaknoti patakam pataki naraha. Also in the Prema Vivarta by Jagannatha Pandit, it is said, Ek Krishna name papira yata papakshai bahu janme se papi karite narai. This means that by once chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from the reactions of more sins than he can even imagine performing. The holy name is so spiritually potent that simply by chanting the holy name, one can be freed from the reactions to all sinful activities. What then is to be said of those who chant the holy name regularly or worship the deity regularly? For such purified devotees, freedom from sinful reaction is certainly assured. This does not mean, however, that one should intentionally commit sinful acts and think himself free from the reactions because he is chanting the holy name. Such a mentality is a most abominable offense at the lotus feet of the holy name. Namno balad yasya hi papa buddhi. The Lord's holy name certainly has the potency to neutralize all sinful activities. But if one repeatedly and intentionally commits sins while chanting the holy name, he is most condemned. These verses name the performers of various sinful deeds. In the Manu Samhita, the following names are given. A son begotten by a Brahmin and born from the womb of a Shudra mother is called a Parashava or a Nishada, a hunter accustomed to stealing. A son begotten by a Nishada in the womb of a Shudra woman is called a Pukasa. A child begotten by a Kshatriya in the womb of the daughter of a Shudra is called an Ugra. A child begotten by a Shudra in the womb of the daughter of a Kshatriya is called a Kashata. A child begotten by a Kshatriya in the womb of a lower class woman is called a Svada, or dog eater. All such offspring are considered extremely sinful. But the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so strong that all of them can be purified simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. The Hare Krishna movement offers everyone a chance to be purified regardless of birth or family, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.18. Kirata hunandra pulinda pulaksha abira shumba yavana kashadaya ye anye tapashayashara shudyanti tasmaya prabhavishnave namaha. Kiratas, Hunas, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulakshas, Abiras, Shumbas, Yavanas, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of devotees of the Lord, for he is the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Even such sinful persons can certainly all be purified if they chant the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee. Herein, the sages encourage King Indra to kill Vritrasura even at the risk of Brahma Hatya, the killing of a Brahmin. And they guarantee to release him from sinful reactions by performing an Ashvamedha Yajna. Such purposefully devised atonement, however, cannot relieve the performer of sinful acts. This will be seen from the following verse. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so here we are. Vritrasura was wreaking havoc across the universe. The demigods, distressed by his rampage, urged their king, Lord Indra, to eliminate him. However, Indra was hesitant to do this due to a past incident where he had killed a Brahmin named Vishvarupa. Despite Vritrasura's demonic form we've heard in the previous days, he was a Brahmin, one by birth, but he was born to the sage Tvastya, and by nature. He was a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. And among all sinful actions, it said killing a Brahmin, a cow, or a woman is considered one of the gravest sins. Indra had already committed this sin once when he killed Vishvarupa, and he had suffered the consequences. To mitigate those reactions, Indra distributed the burden of his sin among the land, water, trees, and women. But having endured these repercussions once, Indra was reluctant to kill another Brahmin. But the demigods assured him that they would perform the Ashvamedha Yajna, the horse sacrifice, to absolve him of the sinful reactions he would incur by killing Vritrasura. The Ashvamedha Yajna was among the grandest of Vedic rituals. It was believed to absolve even the greatest sins, and only the greatest kings living lives of impeccable dharma could perform this monumental yajna, which required pure ingredients, qualified Brahmins, and immense resources. Central to the ritual, to the yajna, was an auspicious horse released to roam freely across the entire earth for 1 year under the king's protection. Its journey symbolized the king's authority, as the rulers that encountered it either submitted to the king as their new ruler or they had to fight him in battle. So upon the horse's return, 1 year later, the king is now the emperor of the whole world, and then the horse was offered into sacrificial yajna, and through sacred mantras by the Brahmins, miraculously revived in a new body. The scale of the yajna was staggering, with the fire altars alone spanned acres. Really, think of an entire football stadium. That's really the size of the yajna. And there were offerings of pure ghee, pure gold, pure gems. Needless to say, in Kali Yuga, these sacrifices are impossible. The mantras lack potency, we have no qualified Brahmins, pure kings are absent, and the amount of resources needed are unattainable. Yet, the people of Kali Yuga are most fortunate because chanting the holy name of the Lord surpasses millions of sacrifices. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 2, Verse 11, by following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Lord Hari. Although ritualistic atonement may free one from sinful reactions, it does not awaken devotional service, unlike the chanting of the Lord's names. And later in that same chapter, it is also stated, one who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly, jokingly, for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. Thus, in this age, the simple act of chanting the holy name supersedes even the most grandiose rituals and sacrifices of the previous ages. The Bhagavatam in many instances explains the glory of the power of the holy name. In the third canto, Devahuti says to Lord Kapila, even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or chants about him. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. So even if one is born in the lowest of situations, in a Chandala family, if one sincerely chants the holy name, then that person is to be considered the topmost human being. The Shastras explain that such a person, even if born in a family of Chandalas, has the power to deliver the entire world. But a Brahmin, who is not such a devotee, cannot even deliver himself, what to speak of others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar of our age, descended specifically to teach humanity the essence of true religion and give us this process in the age of Kali, the chanting of the holy name. Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, declares the scriptures. In this age, there is no other way, no other way, no other way, but through the chanting of the holy name. In Kali Yuga, where everyone is born a Shudra, everyone is unqualified, purification through traditional Vedic processes is arduous and rare and very ineffective. Yet, the holy name has the extraordinary power to elevate anyone to the highest spiritual platform. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya wanted to make such an emphatic statement to human society, knowing our tendency. The person that he personally selected to be the Namacharya, to be the Acharya of the chanting of the holy name, was born in an untouchable outcast family, Srila Haridas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya could have given that position to so many of the learned caste Brahmins that were following him, but he chose Haridas Thakur. And our acharyas explain that it's because he wanted to show the world the power of the chanting of the holy name, and that one should not be classified according to their qualities, not simply one's birth. Srila Haridas Thakur, we know it, he faced immense opposition. The Hindu Smarta Brahmins considered him an untouchable outcast due to his Muslim birth. In one pastime, a respected Brahmin confronted Haridas Thakur in assembly, accusing him of corrupting Vedic culture. And he mocked Haridas, he's saying, "Why are you chanting the holy name loudly? These sacred mantras should be chanted silently in one's heart. By allowing the common people to hear them, you are desecrating our religion." Srila Haridas Thakur was well versed in the scriptures. He calmly responded by quoting from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from various Puranas, the Upanishads. He explained that chanting the holy name loudly is 100 times more potent than chanting softly. While chanting quietly may deliver the individual, chanting aloud can deliver every living being who hears the sound vibration. And furthermore, he emphasized that the Lord is greatly pleased by such acts. But despite presenting so much scriptural evidence and understanding, the Brahmin was just overcome with false ego. He was enraged, and he shouted, "Just see, in Kali Yuga, outcasts will try to teach religion to the Brahmins." But Haridas Thakur, he refused to argue further. He just walked away. And Srila Haridas Thakur, he also faced rejection from the Muslim community. The Hindus didn't want him and the Muslims didn't want him. The local Qazi complained to the Muslim king, accusing Haridas Thakur of abandoning his respectable heritage to adopt the practices of the lowly Hindus. And when Haridas Thakur refused to stop chanting, he was sentenced to death. Yet his unwavering faith in the holy name and the spiritual bliss he attained through it, it remained unshaken. And we know his glories, how he continued to chant even under such persecution. So Srila Haridas Thakur's life exemplifies the power, the transformative power of the holy name. In the Antya Leela chapter 3, Srila Haridas Thakur explains, if one offenselessly utters the holy name, even imperfectly, one can be freed from all sinful reactions. Just as the first rays of the sun dissipate the darkness of night, even the faintest appearance of the holy name eradicates the darkness of ignorance caused by sinful activities in past lives. While dying, Ajamil chanted the name of the Lord, intending to call his son Narayan, yet he attained the spiritual world. What then can be said of those who chant the holy name with faith and reverence? We all remember the story of Ajamil. We heard it, a couple months ago. It's also in the 6th canto. Ajamil was a Brahmin by birth, but he fell into a sinful life due to bad association. And despite his sinful activities, Ajamil retained a smidge of piety by naming his son Narayan, which is a name of the Supreme Lord. At the moment of his death, he was surrounded by the Yamadutas, the messengers of Yamaraj, Lord of Death. And Ajamil fearfully called out the name of his son, Narayan! Although he did not chant the name of the Lord with devotional intent, the mere utterance of the holy name invoked its transcendental potency. Instantly, the Vishnudutas appeared and stopped the Yamadutas from taking Ajamil to hellish planets. The Vishnudutas explained that the chanting of the holy name, even if done unintentionally, eradicates all sinful reactions and provides the chanter an opportunity for spiritual liberation, to go to the spiritual world. In hearing this exchange between the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas arguing over him, Ajamil realized the gravity of his sinful life and also the extraordinary mercy of the holy name. Given a second chance, he renounced his sinful ways, he left his home and went to Haridwar, where he engaged fully in devotional service. And the scriptures explain that by sincerely chanting the holy name of the Lord, sincerely this time, for many years, he purified his heart and ultimately attained Vaikuntha. The story of Ajamil is well known because it demonstrates that the holy name of the Lord is supremely powerful and independent. Even an unintentional utterance can destroy vast accumulations of sinful reactions. However, as explained by Srila Haridas Thakur, and as explained in today's purport, when the name is chanted with faith, reverence, and devotion, it leads not only to liberation, but to the ultimate goal of life, pure love of God. So Lord Chaitanya wanted to teach us. He made an outcast, our Namacharya, and the highest dialogue that takes place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy was considered a Shudra. And Lord Chaitanya, known as the greatest Pandit, is inquiring from Ramananda Roy, the most esoteric, highest bhakti knowledge, and submissively listens to him. And Ramananda Roy, he says to him, I'm just a low-born Shudra, what can I explain to you? And Lord Chaitanya says, no. Sarvabhaumacharya said, I should hear from you. And following in this line, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur literally declared war on these material designations. And because of that, his life was threatened. Because he was giving mantras to people who were not Brahmins. He was giving sannyas to people who were not born as Brahmins. And in his line came His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who defended his disciples with his very life. Srila Prabhupada had complete faith in the true conclusions of the scriptures, that anyone who surrenders to the chanting of the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee, they become completely purified by the unlimited potencies of the Lord. Krishna is non-different from his name. To surrender to the holy name is to surrender to Krishna. And once at a Pandal program, a man came to the microphone and he asked Srila Prabhupada, can you show us a miracle? He wanted to see, some creating of ashes or gold. These are miracles many mystics commonly perform. But Srila Prabhupada, he gestured to his Western disciples and said, this is my miracle. I have changed these Malechas and Yavanas into Vaishnavas. And this is the unparalleled power of the holy name. It does not depend on one's birth, education, or past deeds. It is purely transcendental and accessible to everyone. The holy name, when received through the mercy of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, carries the full potency of Krishna himself. And this transformation, turning materialistic, rebellious individuals into gentle, joyful Brahmins, is the greatest miracle, far surpassing a temporary display of mystic power. It proves that the holy name is the ultimate benediction for humanity, capable of delivering the highest spiritual perfection to all who take shelter of it. Srila Prabhupada was not the first preacher from the Gaudiya Mutt to travel to the West and to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Decades before him, His Holiness Bhakti Hridaya Ban Maharaj, a brilliant and highly respected disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was sent to England in 1933 when he was 32 years old to preach Krishna consciousness. Ban Maharaj had an impressive pedigree. He was born into a Vaishnav Brahmin family, and he lived as an Aishtaka brahmachari. He was a lifelong celibate. His spiritual and intellectual potential was so extraordinary that at the tender age of just 23, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave him sannyas. Ban Maharaj had already proven himself a capable preacher in India. He inspired many with his scholarship and education, so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta entrusted him with spreading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in England. But despite his brilliance and his qualifications, after 3 years in England, Ban Maharaj made only 2 disciples. And seeing the lack of progress, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called him back to Bengal. Why did this mission not succeed? Although Ban Maharaj was capable and he was very intelligent, it has been said his approach to preaching leaned too heavily on intellectualism and cultural diplomacy. He sought to present Krishna consciousness through the lens of academic and social respectability without placing full reliance on the holy name. In doing so, the essence of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, it didn't take center stage. And without the faith in the holy name's power to transform hearts, his mission bore little fruit. Now consider Srila Prabhupada. He had no institutional support, no wealth, no resources, just a trunk of books, a pair of kartals, and his faith in the instruction of his spiritual master. He crossed the ocean not as a young man, but as a 70-year-old with fragile health. Yet Srila Prabhupada had one thing that made him unstoppable: unshakable faith in the holy name of Krishna. He didn't come to the West with strategies of diplomacy or cultural negotiation. He came with the pure teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, centered entirely on the chanting of Krishna's name. Prabhupada, the main points of Prabhupada's preaching was Sankirtan and Prasadam. And his faith in the holy name was so powerful, it awakened the dormant devotion in the heart of thousands. In just 12 years, Srila Prabhupada established 108 temples, initiated thousands of disciples, and distributed millions of books. He transformed hippies into Vaishnavas, materialists into lovers of God. And how? By his complete reliance on the holy name. His Holiness Bibi Govindaswami Maharaj writes of an exchange that he had with Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, a beloved godbrother of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had said that Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj was a pure devotee and a Paramahamsa. So Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj said to Bibi Govindaswami, "I would like to tell you something. I am an old man, and I've had a lot of experience in this world. From my experience, I can honestly tell you that there has never been a greater acharya than your spiritual master." And when he said that, Bibi Govindaswami Maharaj was stunned, because this is coming from a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj continued, "There has never been an acharya in history who has performed miracles like your spiritual master, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada." He said, "Do you know why?" Bibi Govindaswami was still stunned. Krishnadas Babaji said, "Because in history, there was never a greater servant of Sri Krishna's holy name than your spiritual master, because your spiritual master had so much absolute understanding of Sri Krishna's holy name and so much absolute faith in Sri Krishna's holy name that he personally carried Sri Krishna's holy name through the length and breadth of the world. Therefore, he is the greatest acharya who has ever existed." The holy name of Krishna is the essence of all scriptures. It's the ultimate blessing for humanity, delivering even the most fallen souls. The lives of Srila Haridas Thakur, Ajamil, and Srila Prabhupada illustrate its power to transform lives and awaken divine love. And that's what I have prepared. So please share your reflections or corrections, questions. Able.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much for this lovely class on the power of the holy name. It's phenomenal. One point I like a lot that my spiritual master really emphasized is that the holy name has the power to bring all benedictions and also break all limitations and blocks on us. We don't need anything else outside of the holy name to protect us and provide for us and nourish us. There's some natural fear living in the world of different like evil eye or energies or things like that, and some people think they need some external protection, but the holy name can actually provide all of that and release us from sins and any blocks and impediments on the way to Krishna. So
Thank you, that's beautiful.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, I was just reflecting on how you were mentioning at the end of class, Srila Prabhupada, having so much faith in the holy name, because he had this huge vision, for like a worldwide movement, and an old man coming to a foreign country with no money, and he's going to start a worldwide spiritual movement. And how is he going to do that? By sitting under a tree and chanting Hare Krishna, and it worked. So it just shows, how much power there is in the holy name. And then, people started coming, and he just encouraged them to chant. And, and in the past time we were seeing how, Prabhupada was saying that the Ashvamedha, they wanted to do an Ashvamedha yagya, which was kind of the custom in those days. But Prabhupada talks about how like that didn't even do the job, that didn't even free him from the sinful reaction. Whereas after so much elaborate arrangement, expense and everything, whereas the holy name, just very simply chanting the holy name, it did. So yeah, similarly like when Prabhupada came in establishing, his movement, he didn't emphasize rituals and yagyas. And, I was watching a video of the installation of the deities Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra in San Francisco. And he literally just had a plate with a candle on it. And then he had everyone just take turns offering the same candle, and turning the plate around 3 times and having kirtan. The main thing was the kirtan, and then the candle was just something like, just to get the devotees to connect more with the deity. But there was no ritual, there was no ceremony, there was no other mantras. It was just Hare Krishna. So, and the movement just grew from, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He had so much faith that just chant this Hare Krishna mantra, get other people to chant, and it's all gonna just happen by the mercy of the holy name.
Yeah, thank you. At home we're reading Lilamrita, and I think it was in chapter 8, but we heard how Srila Prabhupada, he keeps trying. Like we're at the part, he keeps trying. He keeps thinking for trying to get to America, trying to get to the West. But what it really struck me was he says how he truly believes. He really believed that the people of the West needed the holy name. He really believed that they were suffering. He truly believed that they had experienced every kind of material gratification and were not satisfied, and that they would take to the holy name. He had 100% faith that they would take to it. And when he got to America and he writes his poem, and at the end of one of that beautiful poem, where the famous one, Krishna, Make Me Dance, he says, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I believe in the power of the holy name. Gokulananda Prabhu.
Thank you for a wonderful class. I like the difference that the comparison that you brought out between Ban Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, not to belittle somebody,
right,
but to glorify or to emphasize the power of the holy name. I like that. Thank you. And also you mentioned about Bibi Govinda Maharaj's interaction with Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Just to add, I also heard when he was laying in the deathbed, then doctor came and he put the stethoscope on his heart. The doctor was shocked. He could clearly hear Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Although his lips were not moving, but he could clearly hear to the stethoscope. So, the comments coming from someone who has realized the holy name, that carries the weight.
Yes, exactly. I've heard that too. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, in the Journey Home by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he talks about when he was living in Vrindavan, nobody could tell if or when Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj ever slept. Because when people were awake, they heard him chanting, and when people were falling asleep, they heard him chanting, and when they woke up again, they heard him chanting. So nobody ever knew if he actually slept. He was constantly chanting the holy name. Oh, just Dimna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, a little kind of on topic, but I have a question on the story a little bit. In this translation, the demigods are saying like, oh, you can be like any kind of sinful background, and if you just chant, you'll be fine. But you're a devotee, so we're going to do this horse sacrifice for you. So I didn't really connect those dots, because then he still gets this sinful reaction to chase him around. So I was like, why didn't they just tell him to chant the holy names? Or yeah, do you have any thoughts?
No, it is a complicated situation. It is kind of a striking verse and purport, but perhaps, let's think of it this way. Perhaps if they had said, just chant the holy name and everything will be fine, then wouldn't all of us start doing that? Wouldn't we start committing offenses on the strength of chanting the holy name? And my understanding also is and it's explicitly said the performance of the yajna is to eradicate the sinful reaction. It's like if you have weeds in your garden and you mow the lawn, but then you also mow the weeds. You're like, yay, I got rid of the weeds, but you didn't get rid of the weeds. You cut them off from how high they had been, but they're going to grow back. So that's what yajnas do, is they clean the pot, but then you put more stuff in the pot and you're going to have to clean it again later. Whereas the holy name, it purifies, it cleanses, and it transforms the heart. So I feel like in this instance, it is the eradication of sins that he's looking for. If we're talking about becoming a pure devotee by chanting the holy name, that doesn't really fit in the narrative. This is my speculation, which is probably not worth anything. So if anyone who actually knows something would like to share, I welcome that.
So the question I point to is, what age is this in? Because now the chanting of the holy names is the Yuga Dharma for this age, but in that age the instruction was to attain realization and release from sinful reactions through Vedic sacrifice.
That's a good point.
I think I even read in one of the earlier purports that it wasn't, I think Indra's main mess up was that he made an offense once, kind of almost unintentionally, killing Vishvarup. And then the second time, it was very intentionally that he was killing this Brahmana. And so that's why he wasn't exactly freed, was because it was what we're talking about here, intentional offenses, expecting to be purified by spiritual processes. So,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Krishna. So a reflection I'm having while we were reading the verses, this reminded me of that, is that it talks about how previously he was able to escape sinful reactions by kind of distributing it because he had favor among the women in the trees. But we're still experiencing the ramifications of that, you know? So that is just like the power of, and that's one sin of killing one Brahmin. And so thinking of that scope of one sin and one Brahmin and how many millions of births we've had and so many sins. And now just the chanting of the holy name can purify, like this, what I left up says, of more sins than we can even imagine performing. Is like, what?
Yeah, thank you for putting that in perspective. That's very true. Are you raising your hand, Nanda Prabhu? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I have to be honest, I have something that's kind of heavy in my heart, and so I'd like to ask you for help here. I was hearing that this perspective that this one sannyasi went out to preach, and he initiated 2 people, and it was considered not successful. And however, Srila Prabhupada, he went all across the world and made so many devotees. I get really concerned. I'd like to get some understanding, because I get concerned when we think of success in like this, huge way. Because it seems to me like if somebody was to preach and touch 2 people's hearts, but then I've seen that in our movement sometimes, that like, that guru, he only has like 100 disciples, and that one has 100,000. So then that one's better than this one. It's not like grossly, there's sometimes an undertone of that. And I've noticed sometimes that when people have programs, like they invite people to come and do some kind of Krishna conscious activity, and then there's only a couple people that come, and we consider that not successful. But there's 2 people that are there. And so I'm really just like, kind of like, my request is, can you help me to understand what is success in preaching?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify. So with regard to His Holiness Ban Maharaj, I was specifically contrasting the experience of preaching in the West. His Holiness Bhakti Hridaya Ban Maharaj Swami is very much respected, and he should be as a Vaishnav. He was not successful in preaching in the West in terms of spreading Lord Chaitanya's mission to every town and village. He returned to India. He by the time he passed in 1982, he had about 1,000 disciples within India and Bengal. He initiated 10 sannyasis who continue to carry on the mission of the Gaudiya Math. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also said, in terms of preaching, when people would come back and say, we had 2 people come to the program, only 2 people, he would say, that's wonderful. And he said, if no one comes, still preach, because the 4 walls can hear you. So I do apologize if I made it sound like he didn't, wasn't a good preacher. I'm just specifically contrasting with spreading the holy name.
Please,
in the West.
I wasn't.
No, I don't.
What I was saying at all. I was more of.
But success and failure in Krishna consciousness is not necessarily something that can be measured. I mean, it's not a material thing. If anybody hears, if anybody comes, that's wonderful. And as Bhaktisiddhanta said, the 4 walls can hear you also.
I get concerned sometimes, at least because sometimes I think that maybe we get discouraged because we're not having big success sometimes. And that preaching to the walls or 1 or 2 people is just so important, like you mentioned. So I appreciate that perspective. And by the way, I was 100,000,000% not saying that right. It was in me, you know what I mean? Like I got this perspective at it.
But no, that's good. I wanted to say that as well. Oh, Gokulananda Prabhu?
Yeah. I was just thinking the comparison here is not in terms of the quantity or quality. It was to just glorify the holy name. It was the prophecy which was prophesied in Brahmavarta Puran. The commander-in-chief of among all the devotees had to descend down and kick off this movement. I think in one of the magazines it was explained, right, by Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Hare Krishna explosion. So Srila Prabhupada also, before going to the West, he tried so much.
Yeah.
Right, we were reading the other day. And he had a disciple also. First ever disciple. Do you remember his name?
Acharya Prabhakar.
Acharya Prabhakar. Right? So we are not saying, in terms of material success or failure. So yes, even Srila Prabhupada said he wasn't successful until he came to the West, right? So here basically, even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who happens to be one of the confidential associates of the Lord, Manjari, right? Mm-hmm. Lord Chaitanya didn't pick him up to start this movement in that sense. Mm-hmm. So this credit, 100% credit had to go to his commander-in-chief. That's my understanding.
Drishta, I wanted to touch on what you were talking about with the horse sacrifice. Because from what I'm understanding about the horse sacrifice is, yes, you can chant the holy name and be cured of all sinful activity. But if you're like Indra, I think, and if you're the king of heaven, and then you kill a Brahmin, then people probably wouldn't want you to be king. Mm. So then you'd have to enact like the horse sacrifice. Because as far as I understand it, the horse goes, and if anyone sees the horse, then they have to either submit as Indra's king or challenge him to battle. So it's like a political thing.
That's a good point. Very good point. Maybe one more.
Thank you for teaching today, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking about 2 different things. I had a reflection, personal reflection, and that I wanted to share. And also I was thinking about what Nanda Braj said about what is success in preaching, and that it made that touched me, the concern, because I saw myself like in the early days of Darshan room before it was Bhakti Circle, and there was like, a few of us, and here I am years later, in the temple, learning and having the blessing of being in all of your associations and learning about bhakti and engaging with Krishna and his devotees, and that is the greatest honor in life. And so that is something that I can see that just touched me personally. And I was thinking about success in preaching, and I remember you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he was not successful not because of how many people he converted or how many people understood what he was saying, but because he was focused on behavior and station versus complete reliance on the holy names. And so it wasn't really so much how many were there at all. It was just that he was focused on really if you're focused on anything other than the holy names, the complete reliance on the holy names, then that, I mean, yeah, it's not there. It's not complete, because only the holy names are fully complete. And then I had a personal reflection, and I wrote, I am so afraid of being dependent, yet Krishna has spared nothing in offering love and healing to me in the most accessible way. I don't want to be independent of Krishna. First, that is not possible. More importantly, I know Krishna loves me and is always offering me his pure love through every situation. It is not that I am not dependent. It is that I am afraid to admit all of me relies on him. Like a calf in Vrindavan, he holds me close if I allow him. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Prabhupada Priya? Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was thinking of Nandabraja's question. And I mean, one thing about Prabhupada is that he didn't give up. You know, when he came to America, he also, you could say he was a failure the whole first year. You know, he didn't make any devotees, and he was just struggling and having one tribulation after another, but he didn't give up. Whereas, you know, his godbrother kind of tried and had a little success, and then kind of was like, all right, this is not working very well, and he just kind of threw in the gumsha, you know, and headed back to India. I tailed it back to India, where he felt he could be more successful. So you could say that was a rational decision, right? You know, he felt like I could be making a lot more devotees in India. What I'm here with very little result. And Prabhupada could have said the same thing, right? One whole year, nothing. You know, he could have, I could have opened temples in India. I could have, had huge congregations by now. But because Prabhupada had faith in the instruction, and he had faith in the holy name, and he had determination. Yeah. So I think that was, the difference. That's what made the difference. His success with it, he didn't give up. And he was like, it's going to happen. This is the order of the Guru has to come true. It has to be fulfilled. And so I was thinking that also with ourselves, not only with our service, but with our own spiritual journeys. Sometimes we, feel like we're hitting our head against the wall, and we might feel like giving up, like, oh, it's impossible. I'm never going to be a pure devotee. I may as well just at least try to be materially successful, make some money, be happy in some other way, because this is not working. But we have to have faith in the process, and the holy name, it worked for Prabhupada. It's going to work for us. We just need to be determined, keep chanting, and and success will come.
Thank you.
Prabhupada said, success is sure for the rigid practitioner.
Yes, I read a letter where he said that if you strictly follow the regulative principles and attentively chant 16 rounds a day, you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.